This is I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are.
And welcome to another amazing journey on I Love Black People. Today, we've been blessed with a brother that's been so helpful to me, as well as so many brothers and sisters. And I think we can never say thank you enough, but I'm going to say thank you to your brother, my big brother, Todd Mason. Welcome to I Love Black People.
Man, it's a pleasure and an honor. And humbly, as you always say, Brother Skinner, I appreciate the opportunity just to be near you.
So humbly, thank you. You know, I always try to make sure the guests get an opportunity to actually share their story, because I do such a horrible job sometimes. So I want to make sure the listeners get a little background, you know, your journey, as a professional, as a brother in this space. You've done so many different things, but to kind of, take us from a sketch to how we got here, and then we can go into your latest endeavor.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. And I'm going to try to keep it as the sketch is as brief as possible. I went to undergrad at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I pledged there, as you're aware of, fall '84. And then I just kind of transitioned to the military, became an officer, served in the first Desert Storm, came back, went to graduate school at A&T, started a couple of entrepreneur opportunities in the aerospace industry with GE Power Systems, where we did engine turbine blades for about 3 or 4 years. And then I found this thing called voluntary benefits, where you and I linked up with Aflac, and then just had the beautiful opportunity to go and take over the West Coast and enjoyed it. And then I transitioned to another voluntary carrier, but always keeping that entrepreneurial mindset, so that we could figure out a way to continue to grow, develop, and empower our folks. If you will. So I dabbled in a little what we called Kaya rolling papers back in the day, and that was rolling papers with built-in filters before RAW came out, and then just went back into that normal, safe, voluntary benefits on the entrepreneurial perspective. And lately just been dabbling in ventures that help create generational wealth for our community.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that's you threw a couple things in there to kind of give people a intro to what the topic is, and let's go ahead and get at it. Cannabis. Dun, 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 dun. Cannabis. I think we need to say it very professionally. Cannabis. And I had somebody say the word pot to me yesterday, so I just want to know. I don't want the pot story. I want the cannabis story. Where I'm sure there's all kinds of stories. So what's the cannabis venture about? And let's talk about what the opportunities are, what you think about the industry. I mean, there's probably a whole bunch of things, but go ahead and knock it out.
Yes, definitely. Weed, pot, however we want to phrase it. But yeah, absolutely. The cannabis space has been intriguing for our community for years, but we never had the opportunity to really leverage it on a legal basis. And now that it is legal, I think there's a misconception that you can't get in unless you're politically connected. And when we look at things in perspective, I'm looking at it from an opportunity to create literally generational wealth with each individual that's going to sustain time, because I think it's 27 of the 50 states have legalized cannabis. It's only a minute before all 50 do it. And I think the catch is, looking at the data, just pure data, by 2025, cannabis will generate in the United States $30 billion annually. There's no reason why our community shouldn't be at the forefront and taking advantage of the capital opportunity. So it's projected that 47 of the 50 states are going to legalize it by 2027. And if you're going to wait to get in, you're too late. Now's the time. I was talking to one of our other brothers this weekend at Jiho, and he said, well, we need to wait till it's legalized to get in. Well, as well as I do, if you're not first, you're last. And if you're waiting to get in when it's legalized, trust me, those with the political clout and those of favor will be in first, and you'll still be in line.
Well, I mean, looking at some of that, what are some of the ways then, especially, again, as the Black community, oftentimes dealing with the systematic racism, are not have the same access, and then we get beat down for not doing it. So you're like, man, I'm the victim and the villain in my own movie. This is crazy. With that being said, what are some ways that you've seen that Black folks can become engaged?
So there's an organization or a company called Cannabis 10X. And what they've been able to do the past 10 years is line up 10 brands as franchises. So by doing so, whether it's Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, they have reduced the minutia, especially for our people to get in. All the legalese, you don't have this, you don't have that, you need to get this license, you need to get. Now you're piggybacking on someone that's already plowed the field for you, and you're able to create your opportunity. So there's we all say we want to be business owners. There's a low failure rate in owning your own business when it's already been developed and established and it's a known brand, right? You don't see McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, you don't see them going under as a franchise. So they've got these 10 brands to do it. And then the buying power that's generated from being a part of this brand is huge for our community, because as well as I do, the primary consumers are us. And we should be on the distribution and the selling end, taking advantage of that marketplace in a legal manner versus an illegal manner, because many of our brothers and sisters are incarcerated because of those actions years ago. And hopefully within the next 3 months, they're all released. But until such point, we should take advantage of it. And you can do it through the franchise vehicle. It's easier to get money. You don't need a ton of money to get in that space. You're not worried about credit, because some of us don't have good credit. But if you can string together some assets and a plan and just follow the script, they're going to help you with the chemist. They're going to help you with the horticulture, the strands, the legal advice, filing a license, etc. That's the win-win. And you know as well as I do, information is key. And if you got the answers to the test, go take the test.
Yeah, go take the test. Now, can you say how much it costs, or is that something that it gets weird?
Absolutely. So it varies depending on if you want to be in purely the CBD space and you're interested in ointments and oils. There's a lower buy-in for that. You could literally buy a franchise fee from $35,000 to $60,000 just for the franchise fee, and you're looking at probably $175,000 total just to get going. If you want to be a dispensary owner, for instance, there's an example of the bake shop. If you want to do CBD and be a dispensary, the buy-in obviously is a little higher, 50 to 60,000. Or if you want to primarily be a distributor and a grower, those opportunities are available, and the buy-in is a little higher. But the catch is if you had to spend roughly $543,000 to open up a growing business that's got beautiful business hours, 7 to 3, 5 days a week, and you can generate almost $100,000 a week, I think that's a pretty sound investment.
Wow. Okay.
And
so
they're going to provide you the links to get all equipment, hire the chemists, the horticulturists, all of the smart folks to help you, because they're trying to protect their brand, and all they want to do is expand. And when I realized this, I thought to myself, man, if we could just reach some of our folk, right? Because at some point, Sinclair, as well as I do, our neighborhoods have liquor stores on every corner. There is going to be a dispensary on every corner. and that's fine as long as we own those dispensaries.
Okay. Looking at that, like what with this particular brand or the company, uh, tell us more about that. Tell us more about the company, the franchise.
So 10X Cannabis, they're a bunch of folks that spent the last 10 years understanding this environment, navigating through it, and especially in those initial states that it was previously approved. And they started figuring out, how do we package it and brand it to make it easier? And I think the catch was going through all the legalese and having political relationships was extremely tiring. But they spent that time the past 10 years because they saw it. They saw that eventually this is going to be legal. So in California, Oregon, the state of Washington, Colorado, and Oklahoma were their test beds. Nope, they created this thing called Bud's Place, which I think is going to be the future. So imagine going into a nightclub lounge that's a weed lounge, just like a cigar bar, right? You got the great Vegas ventilation system, so you ain't got to walk away with all the smoke. You have the gorgeous ladies, if you didn't bring your own, right?
Hold on.
Buy
We got to
some
say
there.
the gorgeous people. We got to say gorgeous people.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Gorgeous people. Absolutely.
People.
Gorgeous people. And, fine foods, drink, great atmosphere. That's just on a whole nother level. Well, this started in Oklahoma. No disrespect to the folks in Oklahoma, but it's not when I think of Oklahoma, I don't think of it as Atlanta, DC, New York as a hotbed for social life. But that particular opportunity is doing extremely well. And I see that culturally for us, because many of us own clubs. We own cigar bars, right? Why not get ahead of it and figure out all of the ways that we can be a part of this industry, and not from the consumer perspective, but from the ownership perspective.
That's very, so this is something that existing business owners could actually take advantage of the franchise. That's interesting.
Absolutely. Yep. And those that don't have all their chips together, but they've been destined, dreaming to start their own business and figure it out. We'll go through a confidential questionnaire. We'll do the financial disclosure documents, figure out, okay, where do you fit in? Where can you start? And so maybe you can't start with the bake shop, or you can't start with Dadiri and be a grower from the onset, but you can start with a CBD emporium, right? And then once you get your chips up, continue to grow that CBD emporium and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go own a bake shop.
Now, what's the difference? You said bake. So what's the difference between a bake shop and what is a bake shop? Maybe just tell me what
the bake shop is really the name of the brand. And the bake shop is a cool brand that affords you the opportunity to have CBD. So if your consumer just wants the oils, the ointments, the things for pain, etc., they can get that. Or they can also get cannabis, right? And they can get, I think, 27 different strands now that are available. So depending on your ailments or how you want to feel, you can get that all in the same place.
So is that and I guess you're even bringing up another point, the medical versus recreational use. How does this all fall into that?
So there are a number of states that have approved medicinally. And I'm currently in Georgia right now working on some things. So in Atlanta, in particular, it's only for medical consumption. It is not recreational. But if you use the state of Michigan, it is recreational and medicinal. So when it's medicinal, you need a card. You need a doctor to say, hey, I need this for my health. And I'll throw the disclaimer out the door for you and me. So in California, when we started years ago, you could go down to Venice Beach and see the medical doctor and get you a quick medical card, and then you could just go to the dispensary, right? I got cataracts, migraines,
glaucoma. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so you can best believe it's happening anyway, right? And so I tell people, especially, with states like Georgia, DC, when you're looking at this opportunity, you don't want it when they already have both. Chris Webber just invested $50 million in the city of Detroit purely for cannabis. Yeah, and because they're recreational and they're medicinal, and he's concerned about our community. How can I generate wealth for our community? I'm sure he's going to make a ton, but he's specifically targeting our areas culturally to help foster growth, business ownership, and development. And I thought, what a great tool if we expand this nationwide.
Well, you said you just came back from GHO. Now, what's GHO?
The greatest homecoming on earth. I know I'm not supposed to say that on this radio station.
No. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So North Carolina A&T, with all them Aggies and their pride. What did you see any? Is North Carolina one of those states that's legalized anything?
No, it has not legalized it. But I did see it has not. It's medicinal, but I did see quite a bit of consumption at GHO.
So people are interested. You said there's the market
Absolutely.
for it. God, please. So is that something? So with people, should they be like? Suppose I'm just a business person like me. I've smoked, and I'm not trying to put anybody out there. I've smoked in Amsterdam, but I've never participated here in the United States. How should people, who might have businesses that are not regulated as rigorously, look at this opportunity?
Purely from a margins perspective, right? The margins in this industry are amazing. You and I have been in several business opportunities in space that's really, really good money. And we've been able to make money. And I was sharing with a peer this past weekend, I've never seen this kind of volume in such a short time, especially culturally. You hear about those other folks making millions and millions of dollars monthly, but you don't really hear that about us. And you're talking about something that we know the everyday consumer is going to use. It's just like craft beer, right? When craft beer came out, people just started ordering it because it was different. And now craft beer is the number one consuming item that's out there, and cannabis is right behind it. By 2025, cannabis is going to be doing about 51 billion, as opposed to the 24 billion that craft beer has created its market for itself. So I look at the normal investor because when I began to look at these opportunities, I'm personally not a consumer, but you know me, I am not afraid of money. And the opportunity to gain access, grow it. And now it's more about how can I not only empower and generate more wealth for myself, but folks that have been thinking about how do I get in. So if I'm an investor, it's a no-brainer. You've got quite a few folks that are opening up versions of whatever it is they want to do. Snoop's doing his thing. Wiz Khalifa's doing his thing. Now you got Chris Webber. Matt Barnes has now opened up his cannabis version in Sacramento, right? So it's only a matter of time, and it doesn't have to be those with a whole lot of cheddar. There are opportunities that, trust me, there will be a cannabis facility on every corner of the United States in the next 15 years, just like there's a liquor store, a 7-Eleven. In North Carolina, you got to get the ABC store, but they're everywhere. And that's going to happen. And if it's going to happen, why not open them up in your neighborhood and let your people come to you? And then my note to that would be give back in that community. And, I think you mentioned something about the regulation, and I'll use this phrase. We've all been to the barbershop or the beauty shop and the hair salon. And that is a business that's been around for generations. We never know how much that barber is making because it's a cash business. And until the regulations are in place, it's a cash business.
I think it's a good point. Now, even moving the money that's made and banking that money, has this franchise figured that problem out?
They have. Each one of the franchises has tidbits and tools and resources. They've got CRMs to help you manage that piece. And they've got a lot of great lessons learned. And then there are some that are brutally honest, and they use the barbershop hair salon example, and they won't do it publicly on a platform that's recorded, but they said, look, X amount of cash is coming in. and I am accounting for X amount of cash.
Yeah. Now, no, but that's what I'm saying. Can you help me out with? Because I know in the federal space, like I've heard again, I should do better. But they talk about how banks won't take that money.
That's correct.
Now,
That's
this is a
correct.
franchise. They're doing this all over the country. How are they getting, and I don't want to say get around because I don't want to get people in trouble, but how are they addressing though that issue without it causing the franchisees, any problems?
So they've got the I'm gonna call them legal accountants and legal CPAs that because they want to safeguard their brand. So they're ensuring that the input and the data from the CRM system tracks everything that comes in, everything that comes out. Now, on the banking side, you know as well as I do, you can only put X amount of those dollars in the bank. So unfortunately, some of that is still not solved. So you've got to have, there's a risk there. You got to have a safe, and all your transactions are cash. And so in some instances, the employees that work there are paid as 1099 and they're paid cash. So it's their responsibility to file to protect the franchisee. Right?
There you
Everything
go.
else.
That's
Yep.
insightful. Like I think there's regulatory issues that have to be resolved through the process, and I think being upfront and explaining that to the listeners, I think is also helpful as they go through their the relative risk that they're willing to versus reward go through. As we get near the end, I guess looking at the pros and the cons, if you had 3 pros and maybe a couple cons, I guess we don't want the cons outweigh the pros. That'd be problematic. But like, what would you say the pros, and then what would you say the risks or the
right? So
challenges?
I'm gonna start on the negative and then on the positive. So the risks are what's between our ears, right? It's listening to others or having this notion that we can't get in this space. We're not going to be able to afford it. We're not going to be able to manage it. There's also the big con is the security. And I want to be upfront about that because anytime you've got this type of product and they know it's cash and it's volume, you got to have security. You got to have a safe. So those are things I look as a con, but I'm coming out of Los Angeles. There's literally a dispensary on every corner, and there's plenty of protection, and you don't hear the dispensary getting shot up. So California, they figured it out. So that's a con because you're going to have that protection. The other con you alluded to is the bank. You can only put $9,999 a week in the bank. That banks will authorize you to do that. Well, if you're making $100,000 a week, that's not going to work for you. And so that there's a con that you've got to be creative with your workforce, how you buy your equipment on a cash basis so that you can keep the accounting straight. And then one thing that one business owner shared with me, they literally make all of their purchases with cash. When they go buy a new car, it's cash.
Wow.
And they've gotten used to that. So the pros is you don't want to miss out on this opportunity. Whether you are a consumer or not, it's a great financial investment. Every facet of that. So if you imagine Chick-fil-A and look at one of these brands under Cannabis 10X, they've already done that for you. You just got to come with some work ethic and some resources and be ready to go to work. And then I think, it's remembering it's a targeted opportunity, and states are going to continue as we get blue and blue to legalize this. There's one state in particular, and I don't want to put their business out there, but the governor is going to issue an executive order to legalize cannabis. And this particular governor, I definitely give them kudos. They're going to release our people first. Our people that have been incarcerated around this, they're going to release them first. Then they're going to do the executive order and allow each of those cities to do the same to get the profits. If you look like a state like Vermont, they legalized it they ended up with, I think, 35 million in taxes when it first started. Now they're looking at a $500 million. And, you know, ain't more folks in Vermont than it is in your studio.
There you
right?
go.
But they realize it's, you know, as a state, they're realizing, hey, we can make money off this thing, even though it's not really regulated. We're going to get something.
Nah, there you go. Well, Nuke, you give me the just the last word. You had something to say. How can they get in contact with you? What's the message? What can we get them?
Absolutely. Cell is 714-315-1734. You can reach me on email at Todd, Todd, at cannabis10x.com. And again, all I'm going to do is point you in the right direction and have the great folks at that organization make sure they set you up for success. And very similar to you, I'm just a connector. I want to make sure that the opportunities that are available for people, they are aware, they can make a mint, not only for themselves, but their communities. And I really think this is the vehicle for our people to get in, because we're going to smoke it anyway, right? And you know as well as I do, we're buying and consuming all these materialistic things, which is great, but we don't own it.
Yeah, we got to own it.
Gives you a chance to own it.
There you said it. We got to be the makers, not just the users, the consumers. So definitely appreciate you, Noob. Anytime you want to come Black, we here for you. I love Black people. And as we always sign off, I am because we are. And I definitely wouldn't be me if it wasn't for you, big brother Todd. So thank you.
Humbly, my brother. Thank you.
I Love Black People Radio on HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.